The Denver Nuggets were the NBA's best team a couple of seasons ago. This seems obvious considering they won the NBA championship, but plenty of teams take advantage of matchups when going on a title run. That wasn't the case for the Nuggets. They were the best team in the league from day one and punctuated that excellence when it counted. The Nuggets came within one game of being the number one seed in the West this year, but finished as the second team to the Thunder. They bowed out in the second round because they ran out of gas at the wrong time. Still, the Nuggets were capable of winning it all, but they weren't the best team in the league. They were a team that needed the right matchups to reach the highest level. They ran into the Minnesota Timberwolves, who proved to be the wrong matchup. The epic 7-game series that followed and the Timberwolves losing to the Dallas Mavericks a round later proved that much of the Western Conference belonged on the same tier once the playoffs began. The key to beating Jokic had been to beat his teammates. When the Nuggets lost to the Portland Trail Blazers in 2019, they did so despite winning the minutes Jokic spent on the floor in that series. For as ballyhooed as the 3-1 comeback over the Clippers was a year later, that series might not have even gone 7 if the Nuggets could have just survived Jokic rest minutes. He played the 2021 postseason without Murray. In 2022, he was without both Murray and Porter Jr. For the past half-decade or so, that was all you could really hope for against the Nuggets. If Jokic and his team were at full strength, he'd clobber you, and you could only hope to clobber his teammates harder when he went to the bench. If those teammates were hurt, then you might have a shot after all. The fact that the Nuggets had a 20-point lead in the second half of Game 7 is what makes Denver's second-round loss to Minnesota so jarring. There's no caveat here. Minnesota didn't win this series when Jokic rested. Jamal Murray was playing hurt, sure, but at least he was playing. Every Nugget in the rotation was available to play in all 7 games of this series. Jokic had his teammates. It didn't make a difference. The Timberwolves didn't just beat the Nuggets. They beat the best version of the Nuggets. After almost an entire offseason, the Nuggets still seem to be in the same place. A team capable of winning an NBA championship. But they will need the right matchups to get there. This won't be 2023 when they had a substantial margin for error, but the sky isn't falling in the way some observers would have you believe. While there are some questions about who the Nuggets will actually have on the court next year and if there will be a big shakeup, Michael Malone has proven that even with just Nikola Jokic and some miscast support, Denver is a playoff team. All the Nuggets have needed for home court advantage in the past several seasons is Jokic and a significant chunk of action from Jamal Murray. It's fair to question the Nuggets after they lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to unrestricted free agency. It's fair to worry about Denver's finances and the way it was hamstrung by the first and second aprons this offseason. And it's fair to wonder whether Christian Braun, Russell Westbrook, and youngster Julian Strawther can make up for the sizable two-way impact Caldwell-Pope forged on games on a nightly basis. But 2 things remain true. Jokic is the best player in the world right now, and he remains on Denver's roster. As such, the floor remains high. As long as Jokic remains healthy, the Nuggets should find 50 wins during the regular season. They should garner a top 4 seed once the postseason begins, and they can win 16 games if they are playing their best basketball at the right time. Denver's cumulative strength remains the same. The Nuggets will again have one of the best, most efficient, and most experienced starting lineups in the NBA. And when games get close, when possessions matter, Denver's 2-man game of Jokic and Murray will once again be among the most potent and most difficult to stop. The Nuggets are an elite offensive team because Jokic and Murray are brilliant whenever healthy. They share the basketball and the collective skill complements each other. They are one of the league's most lethal duos, and when the two are on the court together, little can be done to stop them. Losing Caldwell-Pope hurts here because of his timely shooting, his offensive self-awareness, and because of his ability to move without the ball. But the Nuggets front office is convinced that Brown is ready for a larger role. Strawther looked great in Summer League, and his ability to shoot will surely be needed in Denver's rotation. And the hope is that Westbrook's offensive energy and ability to generate pressure on the rim will help the offense altogether. The proverbial elephant in the room is that Murray, who played in the Olympics with Team Canada, didn't look like the Murray who went on that insanely good playoff run in 2023. He looks hampered off the dribble, and he doesn't have the same scoring burst. You could argue that his role for Canada is diminished compared to his NBA role, but he's certainly not moving with the fluidity that we're used to seeing out of Murray. This is important. If the last 2 years have proven anything, is that Jokic represents the Nuggets' floor while Murray is the Nuggets' ceiling. When Murray was at his peak in 2023, when he was virtually unguardable in that playoff run, Denver waltzed to a championship. When Murray struggled with a strained calf in the 2024 postseason, the Nuggets went home in the second round. Perhaps it's unfair to try to predict injuries, but when your injury history reads like Murray's, on some levels you have to include it as a part of his individual story. As constructed, Murray's value to Denver is gargantuan. The Nuggets have designs on getting back to the top of the NBA mountain, but the Nuggets won't be able to do that without a healthy and spry Murray. According to league sources, Murray and the Nuggets are expected to resume extension talks, and those talks are expected to culminate in an agreement on a deal. But when that happens, the Nuggets will be financially strained by the second apron of the collective bargaining agreement, especially with a potential extension for Aaron Gordon also looming on the horizon. For that reason, Murray getting back to his previous form is more important than it ever has been. As great as he is, Jokic can't do it by himself. Gordon and Porter Jr. are elite role players, but role players nonetheless. Despite never having made an All-Star, Murray can rise to star-level play. What worries is Denver's overall depth. The Nuggets were bullish on Darren Holmes, the versatile big man who was a first-round pick out of Dayton. His torn Achilles in his summer league debut is a gut punch. It once again leaves depth behind Jokic an issue. Denver signed veteran big man Dario Saric, who can dribble, pass, and shoot. But he fell out of Golden State's rotation last season, so he has to prove that he is still capable of contributing to high-level basketball. Because of Holmes' injury, Saric will have a bunch of chances to prove himself in Denver's rotation, and his importance to the Nuggets is bigger than previously thought. If Saric can't deliver with the second unit, Gordon will again see another season playing the center spot off the bench, when the role clearly took a physical toll on him this past season. Westbrook is expected to come off the bench, as was a large part of his role with the LA Clippers. His ability to make a positive impact on the second unit will also tell a large tale of how Denver's season will ultimately go. The depth of the Western Conference as a whole will once again be a bear. If healthy, Denver should be at or near the top of the standings, with Mavericks, Timberwolves, and OKC in some order. The Phoenix Suns have had a terrific offseason on paper, and their acquisition of Tyus Jones is one of the sneaky great signings of the summer. The Memphis Grizzlies and Sacramento Kings should be improved from last year. More importantly, 13 of the 15 Western Conference teams will go into the season expecting to either make the playoffs or the play-in tournament. Only the Portland Trail Blazers and the Utah Jazz are expected to be surefire lottery teams. It's the mixture of a marathon and a sprint for the Nuggets. The sprint will be needing to win a bunch of games. The marathon will be that they need to stay healthy and fresh while doing so on potentially short depth. It makes for what could be a fascinating season for a Denver franchise that hopes to maximize the title window and the prime of one of the best players of this era. All of this is to say is that this Nuggets core is a safer bet to be in the position to make a deep run come next spring than the rest of the field.